me drone on for the next 20 minutes. You're going to get to hear from a couple other people from my team. Harley and Ian are both here from Ideal, and I'm going to ask them some questions to kind of get a different perspective of our journey. So you can look forward to listening to other people. But this is us. So if you don't know Ideal Contract Services, this is what we do. We are a steel stud and drywall painting company based in Edmonton, but we do 1,000 things basically. And we have 3 large divisions. We have residential, where we do houses. We do multifamily, which are like wood walk-ups basically. We have a full service division as part of our residential. We have a commercial division where our bread and butter is high rises, but we also do infrastructures, we do hospitals, we do a lot of schools. We've actually done a bunch of churches, and we do retail, TIs, and CRUs. And then we paint all of those things. So we're pretty diverse. We basically construct anything, but we've been around for about 30 plus years. And if you guys have any questions in the future, you can always reach out to me about what we do, and we can help you out. A little bit about me and the reason why you're listening to me today. So I actually started in the trades as a painter way back in the day. I worked as a painter for about 7 years and went to school in the meantime to learn about interior design. But I busted both elbows and ended up working in the office. Started as a receptionist in the office, and this is where I am now. So this is 5.5 years later. I'm kind of the HR manager at Ideal. I do a lot of accounting. I'm our safety manager. I do a lot of coaching. I deal with training and apprenticeship. I integrate all of our new systems. I do a lot of our marketing, proposal writing for clients, and internal design. But also fun things about me that I do: volunteering with the Alberta Wall and Ceiling Association. I'm the treasurer secretary of the board of directors. And obviously, because I care so much about humans, I chair the Apprenticeship and Education Committee. I work with an organization called Action for Healthy Communities, which totally check them out if you're interested. They work with newcomers to kind of give them opportunities in Edmonton and Alberta for careers, basically. And I'm a committee member of this community of practice, which is super fun. And if you guys have heard of me before, it's probably from a Lean Coffee in the past. So talking about why we started our Lean journey, construction sucked. Like, we felt 1000% trapped. We felt like we were kind of getting screwed by the industry. We had no opportunity to change anything or deviate from the way that things were done. Basically, overall, we felt powerless, and we wanted to take control of what we were doing and try to progress and try to get better. So we started researching. We started looking at alternative methods of construction. And a lot of you, if you've started your Lean journey, it probably started kind of similarly. And for anyone in construction, specifically as contractors, it probably started by looking at IPD construction, which is exactly what we did. So we researched IPD associations, and actually Harley, who you'll hear from later, and I called some companies in the States, because IPD in the States started, like 30 years ago, and it's pretty prevalent down there, and got some feedback from them. But the sad thing about IPD is back, 4 years ago when we were researching it, there were really few jobs. So we got all excited about this new method and then weren't able to use it. And even when we did, it was only a couple jobs. So it was really frustrating. It was like, here's the answer to our problem, but we can't do anything about it. But in researching IPD construction, of course, we ran into Lean construction a lot. And researching that was interesting, but also slightly boring, because it's all white papers. It's really vague and a lot of buzzwords that you don't really understand. So that led us to wanting to get into Lean training, which I highly recommend. And of course, that led us to, as Avel said, Avel. who works with Red 5. And this is kind of what we've done so far. So here we are, I think, what we say 3 years later. We've done, I guess, 4 different groups of training. Our first group was very management heavy. Part of the reason for that was that we really wanted to show our ownership group that there was value in it. And the best way to do that is through managers that they listen to and talk to all the time. And the other was that we kind of had a top-down mentality of, you know, if the managers are trained in Lean, then we can filter that down to everybody else. You'll see already in our second group, we realized that managers were not necessarily the absolute best for that, and that we should definitely get our foremen trained. Again, foremen, taking out a couple of our divisions, and then finally we've started Greenbelt for a choice few people who were really into Lean and being kind of amazing cheerleaders. So at this point, we've got 16 yellow belts at Ideal, and we've got 5 right now in green training, which is really exciting for me. I absolutely love that. But this is the battle when you start. So when we first started Lean training, all we wanted to do was share with everybody else. And the problem with that is teaching Lean philosophy to workers is super, super hard. We started, again, like I said, with that kind of top-down mentality of, you know, our managers will just teach everybody and that'll be great. Well, managers had no time, and our managers had to talk to our foremen and supervisors and superintendents in order to get it down to the workers. So that was like a game of telephone. The concepts that we were so excited about that we had learned could not filter down. And even though our commercial division really became super huge Lean cheerleaders, there wasn't much we could continue. We tried, you know, Paul Akers methods. If you guys have ever looked on YouTube and seen his like 2-second Lean videos and 5S videos, super cool. It seems really transferable, but it's also, again, very difficult to communicate exactly why we're doing 2-second Leans or why we're doing 5S's. We've even done waste blocks. We've done tons of them, and that was difficult too because there's 8 wastes and people can only hold 7 things in their brain at one time. So you're kind of set up to fail. So what we were really missing in all of this was that transfer of Lean language and a true understanding of what it is, giving our workers incentives to try. That without incentives, there was really no reason, and it kind of just got sloughed off. And of course, the biggest one was we were lacking real direct mentorship. And that really brought us to non-utilized staff talent. So if you guys have looked at anything Lean related, you've seen the 8 wastes. Communicating the 8 wastes to people can be super easy. I would say like the waiting waste is probably the easiest because it's so tangible. It's like, yes, I am sitting here waiting for something to happen and I can't do my work. I know what that feels like. You know, transportation, taking something from one place to another, or motion, you know, I'm moving my body way more than I need to. Defects, having to do rework, those are all pretty tangible, pretty easy to understand. But the one waste that is very difficult for anyone to understand is non-utilized staff talent. And when we've talked to our employees about non-utilized staff talent, and even people who have been Lean trained, generally the idea is, or the perception is, that non-utilized staff talent means you're not adding value. And a lot of the time, the interpretation of that is, you know, like a journeyman sweeping is non-utilized staff talent because that journeyman is getting paid X amount of dollars and it should be a laborer doing that. But I 1000% disagree with that. That's not what non-utilized staff talent means. What it really means is getting ideas and input from everybody, and especially from the workers. So that's really what we started focusing on. And we really started focusing on it, of course, with our leadership team first. So like I said earlier, I'm really focusing on our commercial division here, but this is what happened. So how we were, and this is again, 4-ish years ago, was like insanely overburdened. Everything in this division was dictated from the top. We were super reactionary. We had very few people. We had one manager for this division, 2 superintendents, 1 estimator, 30-ish permanent employees, and we were doing like 5 to 8 large jobs. What we did when we started focusing on non-utilized staff talent was increase our leadership group. Part of that was these people were so overburdened, they couldn't do their actual jobs. Estimators couldn't actually spend time estimating. Our estimator was actually even project managing at one point. Our managers didn't have, or manager didn't have time to actually manage because they were acting as a superintendent most of the time. So what we ended up doing was adding in 2 project managers, a project coordinator who freed up a lot of time for that estimator to actually do their job, 2 superintendents, 6 foremen, and 2 lead hands. What that all did was it gave us 90 permanent employees, 15 plus large jobs. I think we're close to 20 right now, to be totally honest, and some of the biggest jobs we've ever done. So adding in humans, people always say less is more. I feel more is more. When you bring humans in to alleviate some of the strain and overburden from others, you have the opportunity to increase your capacity and what you can do. That leadership group also started killing it. We noticed huge shifts just by giving people opportunities and a little more power. So of course, obviously that shifted like huge burden away from the others. It created a culture of accountability. So we have a monthly foreman group kind of meeting where all of these highlighted people all get together with our managers, myself, estimator, and they just hash things out. It's super candid, it's real feedback, it's real discussion, and there are real tangible solutions that come out of these people getting together and discussing what's happening on the ground floor with our workers. Of course, all of these things give our foremen super insane amounts of pride. They're proud of the things that they learn. They're proud of being challenged, which is very rare in the trades. Generally, once you're a journeyman, you do the same thing all the time. But as you move up, those challenges really make you feel like you're adding value. Our foremen now have clear roles and responsibilities that they created. They have ownership of their own ideas and the changes that they make and that their workers bring to them. They're actually mentoring, which was a really huge one for us that they took ownership of. We were really, I guess, concerned at the time about some of our apprentices maybe losing out a little bit. And so we went to the foreman group and said, what do you guys want to do? What do you think can make us be better mentors? And they basically made a plan. And now we've got crazy retention of all of our apprentices who are killing it, by the way. Like I said in the last one, of course, we've got increased productivity and capacity. We're planning better because it's not just, one guy planning out what all of our jobs are doing. It's 10 guys that each have, on the ground information in the moment. So we can plan everything better, not just each job, but also on a really high level. And then we've done even more fun things with our foremen because they've been killing it so much. We've done skip meetings and individual goal setting, really working on their personal development, which really brings in that pride again. And what all of this did was influence our workers. And of course, we're talking about Lean here. Our foreman started actually teaching Lean to workers. Of course, the training helps as well. But even just that, monthly conversation that they have allowed them to learn the language better and stop that game of telephone and gave them the opportunity to take the time and explain things to workers where we couldn't do it before. Our workers feel like they have more control over how they do their work. Again, with like 2-second leans and that kind of thing, they can evaluate their own work and decide to change something, and it's okay. Not just okay, it's encouraged. We're also breaking down job site silos, because construction, obviously, each project is very segregated. So breaking down the silos is bringing all these humans together, and we've done that through competitions. So people are actually getting to speak to each other even though they're on different projects. We've done that with 2-second leans, and we did that with our rookie bowl, which you'll see a picture of here on the side, which was a competition we did with all of our apprentices. And we gave them letters with ideal to build, and it was just so wonderful and exciting. And our foreman got really involved, and our journeyman got really involved, and it really brought everybody together. And we've got committees as well. A couple things that came out of this as well was our Peaceburger is actually clean. Everybody actually works together. Nobody's better than anybody else. This got rid of like hiring temporary labor. We don't job hire anymore. If you guys don't know what that is, that's, if you've got a big project upcoming and you really need to throw labor at it, a lot of people will just hire, 20 people to fill a job without even thinking about them. There's no development, there's no anything. It's just throw bodies at the job. We don't do that anymore. We focus on promoting and training. We're focusing on alternative development for apprentices because our trade doesn't have school anymore, which really sucks. But this lean journey has given us the opportunity to actually do that. And people are learning lean language, and they're actually bringing it to us as opposed to us bringing it to them, which is very exciting. Surprisingly, better safety, because once you start learning about lean, you start learning about the 5 whys, and you start learning about finding the roots or the root causes of things, which anybody who's worked in safety before, that's number one, and it's almost impossible to explain to people. And obviously, of course, our workers have a lot more pride in what they do, and they're excited to work for us, which is awesome. So this is where we are kind of today. So our residential and paint divisions have started adopting that leadership structure that we created, where again, they had, a manager and maybe a superintendent, and that was it. Now both divisions have a bunch of foremen. They brought in project managers. The residential and paint divisions are also keen for more training. Basically, they are jealous that the commercial division is getting more training, which is awesome. So exciting. And that means that we can now train them and they're going to want to be trained, which is fantastic. Our reputation in the industry is getting even higher. And I don't mean that in terms of our clients. I mean that in terms of our trade partners, which is, again, really validating. Hearing that our peers, in other trades want to work with us is better than, it's the best report card you could possibly get. Our foremen are really active mentors on site, which is awesome. And they're also active mentors to each other, which is really amazing. Our foremen, if they have an issue, they don't necessarily go to the PM or the manager to get advice. They'll generally talk to each other and say, hey, have you experienced this or whatever. Our workers are happy, engaged, and excited. Our apprentices are super excited to learn. We've got active participation in lean initiatives, and from that active participation, some of the solutions that are coming from our workers are becoming standards. So like I said from the very beginning, lean was really top down. Now it's truly becoming bottom up. And that was all from focusing on developing human beings. So of course, lean, we're talking about continuous improvement, where we're headed. Of course, we want to do more training. We're going to do more lean training, but we're also going to focus on other kinds of development. We're going to keep promoting leaders, do more waste blocks, which is really tough with COVID, but we're going to continue and try. Going to do way more competitions because that's obviously really engaged everyone. We're going to do way more in-house teaching, especially with our apprentices. Of course, continuously try to limit overburden with all divisions in our company. Our Greenbelt trainees right now, myself included, are actively dissecting our systems to find improvements, which is really difficult and challenging and terrifying, but wonderful. And of course, all of this is going to free up more time for our managers to actually go to site, be with the workers, and manage, right? And then, of course, if you know anything about me, I am a super nerd. So here's some books about all of the things that I was just talking about and 1,000 things more. If you like reading, take a picture, screenshot. These are amazing books that I highly recommend. And they're not boring. A lot of like self-helpy, businessy books can be super boring. Especially recommend this one, It's Your Ship, with Captain Michael Abrashoff. He is a badass, absolutely. And it's written, by a military guy. So he is very layman's terms and not lean buzzwords. So really fantastic. And then I'm going to ask some questions to my boys. And this is kind of just going to give you guys a different perspective of what our journey has been like. Again, I have my own, but these guys are, Harley I've talked about quite a bit already. He's that manager that was super overburdened when we first started. And Ian is one of our superintendents who's in Greenbelt as well right now and is worked with almost every single one of our workers and is a huge lean champion. So are you boys ready? Can you unmute?
Yes. Morning.
Did you both talk at the same time?
Probably. We're both Mavericks, according to our PI. We're going to continue to try and talk over each other the whole time.
Sounds good. Okay, so I'm just going to go in kind of this order. So I'll ask Harley first, then Ian, and then I'll answer myself. What's been the most challenging about our lean journey so far?
I think for me, the challenge of the lean journey is if you're serious and you're passionate about it, it's not easy. And it's a lot of work. Like when you're first getting into it and into your training, you hear about continuous improvement and maybe you roll your eyes or whatever, but that sums it up. It's continuous improvement. It's continuous work. It's continually reassessing, reevaluating where are we at, and it never ends. So.
Yeah, that's very true. It sounds like torture, which is, it kind of is, but in a good way. Ian, what's been the most challenging?
I think the most challenging for me is, like we said earlier, we're Mavericks, we're type A personalities, and we often think, oh well, I got this, I know what I'm doing, find a solution and go. And then to challenge yourself, I think to try and think differently about how you get to that solution, I think has probably been the biggest challenge for me. Just taking a step back and applying some of the principles you're learning and saying, hey, wait a minute, you didn't know how to do everything the right way the first time. There's a lot more to learn. So that was it for me.
Totally, I agree. I'd say the most challenging from my perspective has been trying to keep people engaged all the time, because I feel like that's a lot of work. Like Harley said, it's like continuously having to poke people. So that's very challenging. So what's been the most surprising thing you've discovered in our lean journey, Harley?
I'd say surprising and also welcome is during this awful pandemic we're in, and everybody's challenged and it's mentally challenging and it's trying, and we all got COVID hangover. It's a super nice break from it and a distraction. And I've heard Val say it, I heard you say it, Sarah, the human connection that's involved in the lean training has been awesome. And on that note too, I find it's brought us all, everybody that's involved in the training, it's brought us closer together. You have to be very, I feel, vulnerable in the training and honest with yourself. So by doing that with your peers and your teammates, and you get a little closer, and it's actually a lot of fun. So
Awesome. Ian?
Most surprising for me is how much I enjoy this challenge.
You
Yeah,
weren't expecting,
sorry.
you weren't expecting to?
Well, no, not this. No, I do like to be challenged, and I like the concept of lean, and I liked how it was going, but then getting into it and being challenged this hard I like it a lot more than I thought I would.
Yeah, okay. Most surprising to me, I think, was that not everyone was on board immediately. I was really surprised that it was so difficult to get some people engaged in lean in the very beginning. You know, even trying to get our owners to feel or see value in it was mind-boggling to me. And since then, now seeing, you know, our commercial division kill it and everybody else being like, hey man, I want a piece of that. That's also surprising. Like we didn't do anything actually, and all of a sudden everybody wants to do it. So that's awesome. So what do you wish we knew when we started that we know now, Harley?
I would say again, the amount of work it is, and if you really want to do it and take it seriously, and it's yeah, it's to make it work, and it's just a ton of work, and you got to be dedicated, and like I said earlier, you got to reevaluate and keep going, continuous improvement. I mean, the reward is worth it, but it's definitely work. So be prepared.
Ian?
I think I would have known how difficult it can be to pass this on to other people. Some are receptive and some really aren't. So it's challenging sometimes. I wish I would have known a little bit more when we started.
Yeah, I think I wish when we started our lean journey, I knew not to try to bring in people like first off that would be difficult to get on board. I wish, you know, we hadn't put so much weight on management and had brought in some people from other levels of the organization, and especially workers. And even thinking now, I wish we were already bringing in workers that we're not doing. So maybe moving forward, that's something we can do. So what personal growth have you experienced throughout our lean journey? And like this is about the existential question of everything. Harley?
It forces you again, as you work with your peers and your team, there's a lot of self-awareness. You've got to be super vulnerable, empathetic to your teammates. So I believe all that equates to personal growth, but you know, big one on accountability and vulnerability too. Sometimes you're just all out there, and that's part of the journey. So
Ian, personal growth?
Oh, time management's a big one. Just learning to be a bit more humble, and I think I've developed a lot personally in the last, since we started this lean journey, and I've seen a lot, and I don't know, just so much there.
Yeah. I would say humility is a huge one. And stopping the quest for perfection, which was really huge for me prior to the lean journey. I really wanted to, like anything that I had, I wanted to deliver perfectly. I wanted to be the absolute best at what I did. You know, the ambition level is enormous. And throughout lean, realizing that you're always continuously improving and there is no ceiling has, yeah, really humbled me, I guess.
that's a good point, Sarah. I remember early in the training that, wow, this quest to be perfect or perfection could be a downfall, and that, yeah, I'd agree with that. That was huge adjustment as well.
Yeah. So what are our current hurdles or opportunities, Harley?
I'll say again, just the sustaining is,
Mhm.
to grab that word, term, continuous improvement. It is continuous and it is work to sustain it. The opportunities on that note, though, is it is rewarding, and it is rewarding for me to see everybody's growth, not just my own. I think everybody benefits in a little way here and there, and that's super rewarding. Just the idea that, through all this, someone else's life just might be a little bit better. So.
Ian, current hurdles or opportunities?
Biggest hurdle right now is just the face-to-face meetings I need them. I like the collaboration. So obviously the COVID right now is pretty big hurdle. Obviously we make do as best we can, but hopefully that goes away soon.
Yeah. So similarly, I'd say a big hurdle for me personally has been not being able to go to site, not being able to, like Harley said, sustain, being able to do waste walks. Like, it actually hurts my soul that I can't go to site and see the human beings that I care about so much. That's been really difficult. But again, there's a lot of opportunities still to progress and continuously improve. So here's a fun question. What's the ultimate goal of this, if there is one? Harley?
I made some notes. Is there an ultimate goal? There's, it's continuous improvement. So I suppose that's the goal, just to keep getting better and keep growing. So that's the way I see it.
I'd actually completely agree, because my point was no, there is no goal. Continuous learning. It's just a constant progression. Like, there is no set benchmark to finish at. We just keep moving a little bit further as we go, right?
Yeah, I don't think there's an ultimate goal. I think it's a lot of little tiny goals. And instead of looking at, like we're talking about with that searching for perfection and searching for that ceiling to hit and like be the absolute best, like that's ridiculous. Looking at little baby goals that we can do or achieve, that's really it. That's the focus. Anyway, that's it from us. So Avel, you are welcome to be the center of attention.
Awesome. I'm super proud dad moment going on right now throughout the entire session. But one thing I wanted to share that I really liked with your session is that lean is torture. No. No, Harley said that one of the really cool things is that, during this whole COVID time, and it's quite relevant right now, is that we need to connect more than ever. And lean is just one way that we can sit there and encourage that human connection, to strengthen those connections and those relationships that we have with our team and with one another, right? And the act of learning together is there's so many intangibles that happen with your team, and even personally as well too. When you reach across the divide, whether it's in person or virtually or whatever. And that's what I really like about these lean copies that we have here, is that when we have these connections and they're meaningful, there's all these tangibles that come in besides just the improvement to the process, the improvement to the team, and the improvement to your business. And so it's lean is one way to do it. I'm biased. I think that's one of the ways we should always kind of go to. But if anything, whether it's lean or something else, if you're going after that human connection, especially during this very turbulent time, it's worthwhile. So thank you, Ideal. Thank you, Sarah and Harley and Ian for being the guinea pigs, and sharing a little bit about your lean journey. I know it was a topic that that you guys were like, I don't know what we could probably share, but I'm fairly certain that a lot of people drew a whole ton of positives out of it. And we're going to kind of dive into that next.